Good morning. You're watching Nightline with me, Sabrina Zainal. News making the headlines. Government to allocate 2 billion ringgit for National Energy Transition Facility. And voice recordings from Elmina crash successfully retrieved. We begin with this story. The government will allocate 2 billion ringgit as seed fund for the National Energy Transition Facility. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, in announcing the matter, stated that this facility will enable catalytic blended finance to ensure a seamless flow of financial resources towards energy transition projects that are marginally bankable or yielding below market returns.
Within this decade alone, the government requires between 60 billion and 90 billion ringgit to be allocated for crucial projects, among others, expansion of public transportation, strengthening grid infrastructure, and reskilling of human capital. Considering Malaysia's current state of mature decarbonization technologies, our progress will significantly hinge on alternative energy sources and robust regional and international collaboration.
Datuk Seri Anwar said this in a speech at the launch of the second phase of the National Energy Transition Roadmap and ETR in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. He pointed out the main challenge in energy transition is financing, adding that an estimated investment of at least 1.2 trillion ringgit between 2023 and 2050 was needed to enable responsible energy transition. The Prime Minister, who is also the Finance Minister, further said the government would activate the National Energy Council to ensure holistic energy planning and policy development, as well as to monitor the progress of the NETR. The establishment of a renewable energy exchange, scheduled to be launched next year, would also act as a market aggregator, enabling price discovery and monetizing excess power. He also highlighted energy efficiency as one of the energy transition levers that offer effective long-term solutions to manage energy consumption, thus reducing carbon emissions. To this end, he said the government will launch a major retrofit program to enhance energy efficiency in government buildings. An energy service company's ESCO platform will also be established to connect private ESCOs, which are mainly small and medium enterprises, with government projects. Now, Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said Malaysia is not ruling out nuclear power generation, but needs to make further consideration before integrating it into the country's energy mix. Speaking at the Energy Transition Conference in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday, he said that this was on the cards to manage the country's energy trilemma of ensuring energy security, affordability and sustainability. He added the country did not have the leisure to rule it out as it recognized the potential of small modular reactors, SMR. However, with any major pivot, especially on something like nuclear, it must first go through the whole government decision-making bodies and agencies for deliberations before being brought to the National Energy Council, chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, for further consideration. Echoing Rafizi's sentiment, Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Ahmad said the government is mulling nuclear in its energy mix following its zero carbon emissions policy, but noted that there were security and safety concerns from the public on nuclear power generation. Moving on, the Cockpit voice recorder CVR audio of the doomed aircraft that crashed onto the Guthrie Highway near Bandar Elmina in Shah Alam, Selangor on August 17th was successfully extracted in the United States on Monday. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the 30-minute voice recording of the aircraft was very clear and in good condition. According to Loke, the ministry's Air Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, head Brigadier General Tan Chi Ki and the CVR's original equipment manufacturer, L3 Harris, spent the whole day on Monday retrieving the audio.
Jadi, semua rakaman suara tersebut daripada dua juruterbang itu akan dianalisa sebaik mungkin dan juga apa yang berlaku dalam kokpit dapat dijadikan sebagai satu bahan siasatan untuk mengenal pasti apakah punca berlakunya hal tersebut.
Lok said Tan had also briefed him on the contents of the voice recording, but it was not for him to make any conclusions yet. He added that a preliminary report on the crash will be published on the ministry's website in 2 weeks. It will also be handed over to the International Civil Aviation Organization. The preliminary report, he added, would pave the way for a detailed report which may include safety recommendations to avert similar incidences. On August 17th, 10 people were killed in the deadly private jet crash on the Guthrie Highway near Bandar Elmina, just minutes from landing at the nearby Subang Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport from Langkawi. All 8 people on board the aircraft, including Pahang Exco member Datuk Sri Johari Harun, were killed in the crash. In other news, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's political secretary, Ahmad Farhan Fauzi, visited the next of kin of 2 other victims who perished in the plane crash in Bandar Elmina, Shah Alam on August 17th. During both visits in Kedah and Perak, Ahmad Farhan also delivered Datuk Sri Anwar's personal contributions to the victims' families. Through a post on his Facebook page, Datuk Sri Anwar said Ahmad Farhan had the opportunity to visit the parents of delivery rider Muhammad Hafiz Muhammad Saleh in Taman Sidam Kiri, Kedah on Monday. He also visited Shahrul Amir Omar's widow, Suhaila Akasha, in Lumut, Perak on the same day. The Prime Minister also extended his prayers for the families involved and for them to be blessed with great perseverance and patience in going through the test. The Economy Ministry is developing a policy paper to study and propose the reduction of approved permits, APs, and import permits, IPs, covering all economic sectors, including the food industry. Its Minister, Rafizi Ramli, said the government hoped that the review can reduce the prices of goods, especially imports, consequently increasing the purchasing power of the people and easing the inflation effect.
Kedua-dua ini perlu dikaji secara terperinci dan Kementerian Ekonomi telah mengambil masa 5-6 bulan dah kita sebenarnya, sebab dia tak boleh kata sekaligus hapus terus ataupun tutup sana tutup sini. Kita kena tengok di seluruh rantaian bekalan itu, the whole value chain tu kita kena tengok, sebab kita juga nak pastikan supaya tidak ada gangguan.
Speaking at a media conference in Putrajaya on Tuesday, Rafizi said the policy paper is expected to be presented to the National Economic Action Council, M10, as early as October. The move will also allow room for improving anti-monopoly and competition regulations to ensure a more competitive marketplace. He added that with increased competition, the prices of goods and services would also be more reasonable. Rafizi also noted that the country's headline inflation remains under control after easing to 2.0% in July from 2.4% in the preceding month, marking 11 months of continuous decline. Digital National Berhad DNB, the country's 5G network operator, is expected to finalize its equity holdings on Wednesday. Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadzil said DNB would hold a meeting and make several important announcements, including on its new leadership and chief executive officer. On the possibility of mobile network operators imposing additional charges on subscribers using the 5G service, Fahmi said the cabinet's stand and the people's sentiment on this issue had been conveyed to telecommunication companies. He also said he will leave it to Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, to make the announcement. On July 21st, Fahmi said Celcom DG, Maxis, Telecom Malaysia, U-Mobile and YTL Communications would finalize talks on equity holdings in DNB soon. This would further support the development of the 5G network until coverage has reached 80% of populated areas by the end of this year. As of July 31st, the 5G rollout in populated areas had already reached 66.8%. Johor Police have received 11 reports throughout the campaign period for the Pulai Parliamentary seat and Simpang Jeram State Assembly seat by-elections until Monday. State Police Chief Datuk Kamarul Zaman Mamat said the reports involved offences during campaigning in Johor Bahru Utara, Johor Bahru Selatan and Iskandar Puteri.
Sebanyak 11 laporan polis telah diterima di sepanjang tempoh PRK P161 Pulai dan juga N13 Dun Sipai Jeram bermula daripada 26 Ogos hingga 28 Ogos dan daerah Johor Bahru Utara mencatat laporan tertinggi sebanyak 7 diikuti oleh Johor Bahru Selatan 3, Iskandar Puteri 1 dan tiada sebarang report polis dibuat di Muar.
Datuk Kamarul also said among the police reports lodged was by parties that were not happy with banners fixed during the campaign. He added that one investigation paper has been opened on a report involving PAS President Tan Sri Abdul Hadi Awang, and the investigation was being carried out by Bukit Aman's Classified Crime Investigation Unit. Police were also on the lookout for party supporters who uploaded content that touched on race, religion and rulers, or 3R issues, on social media. Authorities also reminded candidates, supporters and those in the party's election machinery to respect each other during campaigning and not damage or destroy flags, banners and posters of any candidate or parties. Zunagara bade farewell to panda cubs Yi Yi and Sheng Yi on Tuesday. The pair were born and lived in Malaysia under an international giant panda conservation agreement entered between Malaysia and China. Their parents, Jingjing and Liang Liang, who recently celebrated their 17th birthday at the Giant Panda Conservation Center in Zunagara, have been on loan since 2014. FMT's Danish Rajareza has the report.
Panda cubs Yi Yi and Sheng Yi are finally going home to China. Yi Yi was born in 2018, while Sheng Yi was born in 2021. Both cubs were supposed to have been sent back to China sooner, but their return was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Memandangkan Sheng Yi juga telah mencecah usia 24 bulan pada Mei lalu. China Wildlife Conservation Association (CWCA) telah bersetuju dengan cadangan Malaysia untuk menghantar kedua-dua anak giant panda ini bersekali.
The pair's parents, Sing Sing and Liang Liang, have been living in Zunagara since 2014. They were loaned to Malaysia to commemorate 40 years of diplomatic relations between Malaysia and China. Sing Sing and Liang Liang also had another cub, Nuan Nuan, which was sent back to China in 2017. Visitors to Zunagara thronged the panda enclosure for today's farewell ceremony for Yi Yi and Sheng Yi. Those who spoke to FMT said they took the opportunity to bring their children to see the pandas as they are not native to Malaysia. However, they said they were sad to see the cubs return home.
So ada chance tengok panda sebab memang tahu pun hari ni diorang dah nak balik kan. Kalau boleh diorang kena stay lama lah sebab kita orang dengan budak-budak ni pun boleh tengok kan panda kan.
It's kind of sad, but it's a good thing also I think maybe because they are going back to their home country.
Also in attendance at the ceremony were Chinese ambassador to Malaysia Ouyang Yujing and Malaysian Zoological Society President Zaharin Arif. Danish Rajareza, FMT for Nightline.
Dia nampak je. Dia kata meteor bits coming down.
Dimaklumkan ianya tidak selamat kerana ada beberapa jet pejuang.
Dia screen lagi setiap body bila dikeluarkan daripada kereta api.
Tempat simpan barang di belakang penuh dengan senjata.
Fail Mahkamah, Rabu 9 malam di TV3 dan stream secara HD ditonton.
Safe radiation levels in South Korean seawater after Fukushima release. News from the foreign front when Nightline returns. series of bomb attacks in Thailand's insurgency-hit far south has killed at least 4 people and wounded 9 others. It was reported that the blasts hit Yarang district in Pattani province on Monday night at about 10:50 p.m. local time. Officials on Tuesday confirmed that 2 policemen and 2 defense volunteers were killed, while 9 others, including civilians, were injured after a security patrol was ambushed. It was understood that the first blast targeted a police car and was followed by several more hitting electric poles in the area. The attackers used assault rifles and grenades, as more than 100 spent rifle cartridges were found at the scene, along with grenade fragments. Pattani Governor Patimo Sadiamu said an investigation into the attacks was underway. Seoul's Oceans Ministry on Tuesday said the radiation levels in seawater near South Korea were found to have been within the safe range despite Japan's release of contaminated water from its crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. Its Vice Oceans Minister Park Sung-hoon said the ministry's emergency tests on 4 locations in its territorial waters and high seas showed that the concentration levels of cesium and tritium stood well below the standard set by the World Health Organization, WHO, for drinking water. He also said that no radiation has been detected in domestic seafood or imported marine products so far. The South Korean government has carried out emergency radiation tests on about 30 spots in the water since Thursday, when Japan began discharging radioactive water from the power plant into the ocean, and all the samples have met the safety standards. Over in China, Typhoon Saola has forced provinces to enact emergency response measures on Tuesday and called fishing boats back to ports along the southeastern coast as gale-force winds and gusts whipped across the South China Sea. Now, officials said so far, Guangdong province has issued a heightened emergency warning for strong winds coming from the bands of Typhoon Saola, while Fujian province maintained a level 4 emergency response warning, calling all fishing vessels back to port. China's national forecaster said currently there is an uncertainty regarding Saola's path, as it is expected to interact with Typhoon Haikui, which formed in the northwestern Pacific on Monday, but a danger of it becoming the 4th typhoon to make landfall in the country this year is still there. Currently located about 520 kilometers northeast of the Philippines' capital, Manila, Saola is expected to move northwest at a speed of about 10 kilometers per hour and gradually approach the coast from southern Fujian to central Guangdong. It was also forecasted to sweep past southern Taiwan, and the Hong Kong Observatory said it would consider issuing warnings later this week. A Pakistani court on Tuesday has suspended former Prime Minister Imran Khan's 3-year sentence, ordering his release on bail. However, Khan's suspension in the misdeclaration of assets case does not mean his conviction has been overturned. According to Khan's lawyer, Naeem Panjutta, it was unclear whether this would lead to his release from jail, as the court also issued an order to keep Khan in detention and directed authorities to present him on Wednesday. The uncertainty over whether Khan would be automatically released as a result of the High Court's decision is due to other court orders allowing for his arrest in other cases. Khan is set to appear in a special court recently established under the Official Secrets Act for a hearing in the Cypher case, which Khan could face up to 14 years in prison if convicted. Etihad extended their perfect start by easing past Al-Wehda 3-0, despite losing captain Karim Benzema to injury. The visitors broke the deadlock in the second half after the hour mark through Romarinho, set up by N'Golo Kante, before substitute Jota made his mark on the match by scoring Etihad's second goal 4 minutes later. Romarinho then had a hand in Etihad's third goal when he played the ball into Coronado's path in the 73rd minute. With their win, Al-Ittihad lead Al-Hilal by 2 points, while Al-Wehda stays 6th in the table. Turning to tennis, the 2023 U.S. Open. Novak Djokovic made a winning return by storming past Frenchman Alexander Muller to reclaim the world #1 ranking. The #2 seed, chasing a record-extending 24th Grand Slam singles title in New York, shrugged off a late-night start to demolish the Frenchman 6-love, 6-2, 6-3 in just 1 hour and 35 minutes. The 36-year-old Serbian will play Spain's Bernabe Zapata Miralles in the next round. Also through to the next round was Taylor Fritz. The #9 seed dropped just 5 games in beating fellow American Steve Johnson 6-2, 6-1, 6-2 in under 90 minutes to book his place in the second round. He will next face Juan Pablo Varillas in the next round. In another match, Hungarian Marton Fucsovics advanced to the second round after defeating #31 seed Sebastian Korda of the U.S. 7-6, 4-6, 7-6, 4-6, 6-4 in 4 hours and 25 minutes. Fucsovics will face Australian wildcard Rinky Hijikata for a place in the third round. More after the break. Man charged with murder of fellow Ipoh nursing home resident. Don't go away. Us. In Perak, a resident of a care home for the mentally disabled was charged in the Ipoh Magistrates Court on Tuesday with murdering a fellow resident last week. 50-year-old Lai Mun Kong nodded in understanding as the charge was read to him before Magistrate Jessica Daimis. No plea was recorded as the case is under the jurisdiction of the High Court. Lai was accused of murdering 42-year-old Lim Han Tong in a toilet at the care home in Johor between 6 a.m. and 6:50 a.m. on Thursday. The charge, framed under the Penal Code, carries the death sentence upon conviction. The court set September 29th for case mention. Previously, Ipoh Police Chief Assistant Commissioner Yahya Hassan said police had been informed about the resident who was killed in a fight at the care home after he was found unconscious in a toilet next to the suspect. A post-mortem revealed that the cause of death was head injury due to blunt force trauma. In Selangor, police believe that anger arising from frequent scolding for being jobless and lazy drove a man to kill his elderly father in the murder case that occurred in Sungai Way, Petaling Jaya on Saturday. District Police Chief ACP Muhammad Fakhruddin Abdul Hamid said the midnight incident happened following an argument between the suspect in his 40s and the victim in his 70s. According to Fakhruddin, initial investigations showed that the suspect had been unemployed for the past 2 years and often spent money on buying alcoholic beverages. He said the suspect was believed to have been enraged by the victim's insults and constant pressure to find work, as well as for berating him over his alcohol addiction. He added the man, suspected to be intoxicated, allegedly used a shovel to beat his father to death and then wrapped the body in a curtain before dumping it by the roadside in front of a condominium.
Suspek yang telah ditangkap telah dibawa ke Mahkamah Magistrate Petaling Jaya pada 27/8/2023 dan mahkamah membenarkan tahanan reman selama 7 hari sehingga 2/9/2023.
Fakhruddin said police also confiscated a shovel believed to be the murder weapon and a vehicle which was allegedly used by the suspect to move the body. Checks also found that the suspect has several previous criminal records for breach of trust, possession of corrosive and explosive substances, and for carrying offensive weapons. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for murder. Nightline draws to a close this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look at Ethiopia's cultural hub, Vendika, which has become an icon of traditional music and dance, showcasing the beauty in Ethiopian cultures in the heart of the capital. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for watching and have a fruitful week ahead.